welcome to the session on Breakthrough Builders. Breakthrough Builders is a growing community of founders and funders committed to breakthrough social ventures that can shape the future of the United States. Yesterday, from this stage, we talked about what Breakthrough Builders is and what a breakthrough project looks like. We told you about the 9 rules for building a breakthrough project. Today, we're going to actually show you what that looks like. We have 3 different projects. We're going to bring them up one at a time so you can see for yourself the kinds of exciting things that are happening in this space that can redefine what the United States looks like. I'm particularly happy to introduce our first speaker, Joe Ross, the founder and president of Reach University. And one of the reasons I'm particularly excited about Joe is because with Breakthrough Builders, we look for 3 things that we think absolutely matter. One is a vision of national change. Does your project have a vision for how it can change what's happening in that industry? Move the needle, not just marginal change, but step change, step growth change. 2 is there a proof of concept? Do you have proof that your vision, your model works? Something that's maybe small now, but that's scalable to change the country. And the 3rd is we look for the right leadership. With Reach University and with Joe Ross, we have a trifecta of all 3 of those. So let me introduce to the stage so you can hear for yourself Joe Ross from Reach University. Amen.
Thank you. So my father told me that education is like a pen that you can use to write the story of your own future. Well, he worked for the post office as a janitor, and he was injured in a motorcycle accident, and when I was 4, my mother died, and when I was adopted, I remember being in a judge's chambers and the judge telling me that I would have a new last name. And I must have thought in my little head, what? You can do that? What else about the hand that you're dealt can you just change? Well, my name is Joe Ross, and I am the co-founder and the president of Reach University, the nation's first and only university dedicated to apprenticeship and apprenticeship degrees. And you may be thinking, how do we get here? Well, the woman that I have called mom since I was 4 years old, she's in her 90s now, and a couple years ago, she was visiting my house telling my children about what a hellraiser I was growing up. She was going on and on about how at the end of my 2nd grade year, the teacher called the house, and when she picked up the phone, the teacher was crying, and I was like, Mom, and she looks at me and says, she was crying because you passed the end of your reading test. And I thought, that is not how I thought that sentence was going to end. Because I kind of thought of myself as a really good student, and I wondered in that moment, what was going on in 2nd grade that would bring my teacher to tears if I passed a test? Well, I remembered that teacher. Her name was Miss Fenner. I liked Miss Fenner. I can say I had a crush on Miss Fenner as a 2nd grader. And I remember that she used to take me out of class every day to play games with a few other kids involving words. And I realized in that moment, as an adult, that I had been pulled out for reading intervention. And the thing is, I never knew it. Because not only did Miss Fenner give me the ability to read well, but she gave me an attitude about myself as a reader. And so I went on to graduate from high school and from college, went on to serve in the Navy. Last week, I testified before Congress. This week, I'm speaking before all of you. And would any of that have happened but for Miss Fenner? Well, we started Reach University originally because there were not enough teachers like Miss Fenner. We looked across the country, did some math, and calculated that about 15 million young people were walking into school buildings across the country where 1 or more classrooms lacked a permanent teacher, and yet in those very same buildings, there were 5 times as many people who could be the teachers we need. If only they had access to upward opportunity, so they could fill those positions. They were in the same building. That's right, in the same building where there were vacancies, there was overlooked talent. Classroom aides, library aides, special education aides, coaches, lunch ladies, bus drivers, janitors like my dad. And each of these individuals shared a similar story. At some point in their life, they were forced to choose between the job that they needed right now and the education and the training that could have gotten them ahead to their future. And we asked, what if nobody had to make that choice? What if you could turn your job into a degree instead of the other way around? And at Reach University, that is what we do. We help people help themselves to turn their jobs into degrees so that they themselves can reinvent their own future. And my message to you today is that higher education in this country must reinvent itself. Because when you turn a job into a degree, you have what we named an apprenticeship degree. It's a model where half the learning comes from on-the-job work and the other half comes from seminars at night or on the weekend. And it's already a thing. At Reach University, we're doing this already in Arkansas and Alabama and Louisiana and Tennessee and Georgia and Texas and Colorado and half a dozen other states. So I want to leave you with 3 takeaways today. First, what is the apprenticeship degree? Second, who is it for? And third, how big can it get? So first, what is the apprenticeship degree? Well, it draws on the traditions of apprenticeship that go back thousands of years. This was not invented in Washington, D.C. You can think of these traditions, these core characteristics, as the ABCs of apprenticeship degrees. And here we go. A is for affordability. Apprentices forever in time have been asked for their sweat, not for their debt. Never is a student loan part of the equation. This country has seen higher education drunk with student debt for half a century. Unlimited student debt with zero underwriting. Do you know when we started Reach University, we were told we had to give away student loans. I actually had to hire a lawyer to petition the government to ask for special dispensation from the US Department of Education to not give out loans. Well, we were successful at that, and nobody at Reach pays more than $75 out of pocket per month max, and that is affordability, which brings me to B, based in the workplace. Classmates are your colleagues. Colleagues who are experienced are your faculty. The workplace is our campus. It's the learning place. Mentorship is built into everything we do. And C stands for credit for work. I said before that half the learning comes from on-the-job work. The rest comes from seminars, classical liberal arts seminars at night and on the weekends. But C also stands for credential of value, because my proposition for you is that the apprenticeship degree delivers what higher education was always supposed to deliver, but usually does not, which is near-term job skills and long-term skills for life and human flourishing. So that's the apprenticeship degree. Now you know the ABCs. So who is it for? Well, it's for people like Nicole Menard. This was her story 5 years ago. Please play the video.
I grew up in Centerville, Louisiana, little bitty old town. I am one of 11 children. I'm actually number 3. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she home taught us. I am an elementary school para. Most people that I know, friends, they're paras because we were able to go take a quick course, work, and be able to raise our families. But the pay is horrible. The pay is 1/3 of what a teacher makes. My husband wanted me to go to college. He was an educator for 20 years. I lost him 2 years ago to cancer. Learning to become now a single mom of 2 busy teens, work and run a household was a great challenge. When this program was introduced to me, my principal said, "You need to do this." And because I was homeschooled my whole life, I doubted. I doubted myself, my ability. I've never been in that public school setting. I need to set up to be able to take care of myself and my children later on in life. And what am I telling them if I don't try? It's hard, but you can do it. I'm doing it. The program was designed around working parents. We don't expect you to miss your children's things. We don't expect you to miss anything. This program makes it possible for you to be able to get that degree and to be able to make $30,000 more a year compared to what parents make. My children see that it's possible and that if mom can do it on top of everything else, no matter what's going on, that they can do it.
So the rest of the story here. Today, Nicole Menard is a 5th grade math and science teacher. As soon as she graduated with her apprenticeship degree, she was immediately promoted into that job, and she immediately obtained an increase in salary that was almost 3 times what she earned before, and she was still in the same building that she'd been working in. So that's who it's for. It's for people like Nicole Menard. It's for the 50 million working adults in this country who don't have a degree, but say in survey after survey that they wish they had more training or education to get ahead, but who shouldn't have to leave their job or go into debt or leave their community to get ahead. So that brings us to the final takeaway, which is how big can this get? Well, we're early days still at Reach. We're serving 3,500 apprenticeship degree candidates across 9 states, and we're just getting started. And we don't intend to scale this alone. We launched our National Center for the Apprenticeship Degree to share our model with any organization in any state that also wants to reinvent American higher education. That's what we call R&D, as in rip off and duplicate. Together, before this decade is out, we will help 10,000 people help themselves to turn their jobs into degrees and better careers with 0 student debt. And when we do that, we will prove that the American workplace can be its learning place. And we will have brought forth a model for economic opportunity that can scale across the country and help more people than ever before to reach their full potential and the American dream. And I want to leave you with just a couple of the stories that will be told. Please roll the second video.
My story is your story. I was full-fledged coach's wife, mom. I worked in public school, doing it for less than I could make at McDonald's. And it was because you cannot put a price on your purpose.
We're scared of trying new things. What am I teaching my children if I don't try? I didn't have to stop my life in order to go to college.
You can be a full-time student, a full-time worker, and a full-time person.
I learned things that I didn't know that I could do.
This is how I'm gonna get to where I want to be while I juggle everything outside of work.
I was like nervous, excited at the same time, but my heart told me that it was what I've been doing for.
I used to get sad when I heard people, I'm going back to school, or you get invited to a graduation. Guess what? I don't have to feel it anymore now, since I'm at Reach University.
This is a school that's not designed to allow you to fail.
Just having that bachelor's degree would give me more of a voice.
Reach is providing access to people like me who wouldn't normally have access to opportunities.
They know they can do it also. Now seeing us, maybe they're like, oh, I can be like her.
If all these other jobs open up this opportunity, oh, it will be a whole new world.
What I look forward to most, more than anything, is for my kids to see me put my tassel on the other side of my hat. Sorry. It shows them that if mom can, you can. And it doesn't matter how big that mountain is. We're gonna climb it together.
So, please join us Join us to reinvent American higher education and to revitalize the American dream. Thank you very much.
All right. Joe and Reach University, we've had the opportunity to work with for the last year, and it's been spectacular. And I think it's one of the most important new initiatives in the country. Now, with Breakthrough Builders, I'm going to introduce one of the newest projects that we've taken on. In America's 250th anniversary, right now, it's more important than ever that we have a better understanding of American history. And like a gift from God, someone with influence and a platform has come forward to deliver that. The actor Kelsey Grammer has started something called the American Revelation. The American Revelation is a project to advance a greater appreciation and understanding of American history through storytelling, through daily content, across media, to make that real for folks, with the goal of having an increased appreciation of our cultural and historical inheritance, an appreciation for liberty, an appreciation for self-determination, for civic renewal and civic responsibility. That project is led by Jessica Kill, their new COO. You're seeing a brand new project right now. Jessica is the right person for the job. She has literally done everything. She's worked with MGM, Amazon, Netflix, Disney, more studios than I can name. She's worked on projects that have won Academy Awards, Grammy Awards, Emmy Awards, whatever other probably awards exist in the entertainment space. I don't know how she sleeps, honestly, given her resume. So Jessica's gonna come out and tell you about this brand new project from Kelsey Grammer called the American Revelation.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I am Jessica Kill. Unlike Jeff Ross, I did not change my name. My name was Kill at birth, so that's something you probably won't forget. I have the great honor of working with Kelsey Grammer, who a lot of you may recognize from Frasier, from The Simpsons. He's about to be in December, will be in the new Avengers movie. Very exciting stuff. I'd like to know, did anybody have a chance to see Young Washington? Has anybody heard about Young Washington? Oh, great, we've seen a couple people. It just opened this last weekend with Angel Studios, and it's done really, really well in the box office. They're live streaming it and having it in theaters right now. It ended up being third in the box office this last weekend, which is tremendous. And they've just announced on Monday that they're gonna do a sequel called 1776. And Kelsey is in the film. He plays Lord Fairfax, a mentor to young George Washington. And I'd like to just play a quick video that is playing at the end of the movie right now. It just expresses some of the sentiment that Kelsey is sharing with the people that we're talking to about our movement with the American Revelation. So if you wouldn't mind playing the video, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. You're not just watching a film, you're helping launch a movement, because the ideals at the heart of this country still matter. We believe the story of George Washington, of sacrifice, courage, humility, perseverance, and faith still matters. Freedom matters. Virtue matters. The belief that liberty is worth fighting for, that still matters. So we are inviting you tonight to pay it forward, because when you do, you give countless families the chance to see Young Washington, and with your help, Young Washington can be America's #1 movie. On the 250th anniversary of our nation's birth, we can send a message loud and clear that America and the founding principles that shaped her are still worth fighting for. Thank you so much for your help.
So that really encapsulates what is the inspiration for Kelsey in this project, The American Revelation. He really has been moved by the disconnect that a lot of young Americans are feeling, the divisiveness a lot of us are feeling across the nation, and he wanted to use his power in media to be able to retell these stories of America's history and to inspire and revigorate Americans' passion for liberty, for self-determination, for just liberty in the end is the biggest word there, and reminding people the sacrifice that has been made in the last 250 years for us to be here today. So I'm gonna, oh, perfect, this is our company, the American Revelation Foundation. The American Revelation Foundation is dedicated to celebrating and advancing the understanding of American history through daily exploration of the nation's past, its triumphs and its trials, while inspiring renewed appreciation for the liberty, self-determination, and civic responsibility. So really looking to include every American in celebrating America today. Here's a lovely message from Kelsey. If you're here tomorrow, Kelsey will do actually a fireside chat with Liberty Ventures' Alexander McCoben at 9:30 on this stage. Kelsey is a prolific speaker, so passionate, and a lovely man. If you have a chance to come by and hear him talk tomorrow, I highly recommend it. We're also doing a lunch at 1 p.m. and a reception at 6 p.m. So there's a couple opportunities to come meet him, talk to him about what we're doing if you have time tomorrow. So what do you do when you have one of the world's most recognizable faces having this passion, having this dream? How do you get him to communicate, or how do you use his network to communicate to the world our messaging? Well, we're very lucky because he has been in your living rooms for about 30 years and on the big screen just as long. We have created 3 initiatives. A daily 1-minute history lesson that CBS is going to air from Monday to Friday. A book series that HarperCollins and Southwest Advantage and Capen Publishing are supporting. And then we also have an app that we're building out right now, which is amazing. The teams of people that have come to be involved with our app are like Michael Milken and the American Dream Institute, the Smithsonian, Salesforce. We have about 6 other really amazing partners that are giving us content from libraries and museums across the nation. So that app will be launching in the next 6 months. All these programs will be starting sort of in the next 6 months. Here is some visuals on the app that we're creating. It's going to be basically a museum in your hand. We're creating experiences where kids across the country, doesn't matter if they can get to Washington or not, they can still experience these amazing museums, the amazing history that America has in its back pocket. We have a program called the Civic Passport, which is a gamification that will allow everybody who's participating in the app to be rewarded. There'll be a weekly leaderboard that gives prizes from our partners. It's going to be a really fun, exciting piece. There's nothing like this out in the marketplace right now. This talks a little bit more about some of our vision. Our second phase with Kelsey's kids, I don't know if you guys know this, but he has 8 kids, including one that's just under a year old. It's definitely keeping him young. They all love to play Pokemon Go. So I don't know if you guys have kids and you're playing Pokemon Go too, but we're creating a version called Patriot Go, which will be done with the National Parks Board, where across the country at all the landmarks, we'll have interactions through that. That's going to take about another year to fully execute, but that'll be interactive wherever you are in the country. This is a brief on the first book that we're coming out on, which is celebrating the first 250 years of America. We are going to have like a daily breakdown of every year for the last 250 years. These pieces also interact with the app. So our content on television on CBS will drive people to the book and drive people to the app. So it's all very interactive. If you read, if you're on your phone, if you're watching television, there's something for everybody in America to participate with. This just touches a little bit on our daily series that we're doing. I think a lot of you may also recognize Kelsey from his work at the History Channel and Fox. He's very prolific in the history space. Honestly, I can't imagine anyone else coming through the television or the screen telling the story of America. He's so passionate. I cry almost every single day when we're doing a presentation. His love for America and his desire to make sure that everybody knows what this country can provide you if you're connected to it and if you want to take advantage of it. This is a little bit more of, the way that we're working. Sorry, I got a couple extra. We are in the process right now of building our army to support what we're doing. Kelsey obviously has a lot of relationships with actors, with influencers. We have agreements with, or we've had like a lot of people already kind of come to us and say they want to participate. We have some amazing donors that are starting to come on. We have some institutions that are supporting us. Basically, I'm just sharing that if you have the desire to participate, we're open at any level, even if it's just being connected to us and helping share the stories with younger people, with your children, with your grandchildren, to make sure that they know that there is a resource that will help them remember the values of America. This is our team. I'm Jessica. I'm there at the bottom, obviously. My phone number and my email is there. We are very approachable. If anyone has any ideas, if there's something you want to do, if you want to know where we are and come out and support, we answer the phone, we answer emails. Kelsey is also very open. That he is so passionate about this, he will take any meeting with anybody who has something of value to contribute. So that's us. And then here's a little last slide where you could learn more. We have a QR code if you want to scan that to learn more about us. There's a QR code if you wish to donate. Again, Kelsey will be on the stage tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. with Alexander McCobin. And we'll have the reception for lunch at noon and at 6 p.m. So I think that's pretty much our thing. Is there any questions from anybody in the audience today? No. Okay, awesome. Well, I really appreciate everybody's time. I want to say thank you so much to Valerie and Mark for having us here on the stage, for Alexander and for Chad, and also Josh and Pano for co-exhibiting with me. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Jessica. All right, everybody, make sure to take the opportunity to meet Kelsey Grammer tomorrow. Be in touch with Jessica. Now you got her phone number and her email. And American history, which we just talked about, probably more than anywhere else, ought to be represented in higher education, right? That's where we go to learn about our country, learn about the world. But too often, it was neglected, denigrated, misrepresented. It's one of the reasons that the next speaker and I helped co-found America's newest university, the University of Austin. How many folks here have heard about the University of Austin? Close to 100%, that's great. So we spent 3 years building the University of Austin and then launched it to great success in fall of 2024. And one of the key obstacles to launching a new university that we learned firsthand in the trenches is accreditation. And you're like, oh my God, what's accreditation? This sounds really boring, right? Accreditation is the currency of credits, class credits, that are used in higher education so that a credit from one school can transfer to another and can transfer from bachelor's degree to a master's degree. It's absolutely vital. Without accreditation, you don't have a currency, you can't have higher education function very well. And so accreditation is this necessary thing, but now it's too often an obstacle for new universities like the University of Austin, and it's an obstacle for even innovation within existing universities because there's a narrow set of rules that force all universities to more or less look the same and act the same. And it's one of the reasons you see so much homogeneity in higher education. So having experienced that, when Pano and I, our next speaker, Pano Kanelos and I, when we left the University of Austin a year ago, one of the first things we said, if we're going to do more work in higher education and encourage competition, encourage innovation, the first thing that needs to change is accreditation. So we launched something called the Global Accreditation Project, filed a C3, raised a little seed money, and launched a project. So I'm happy to introduce my business partner, the co-founder of University of Austin, its founding president, and now board member of the Global Accreditation Project, the newest accreditor in the United States that will launch within the next 2 years to help completely change the set of rules and the set of incentives across all of higher education, Pano, Kanelos, and the Global Accreditation Project.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is surreal for somebody like me, a Shakespearean scholar, somebody who spent so much time on stages in front of audiences, to come to you in the middle of an afternoon and talk about accreditation. As Chad was saying, this is in many ways a feature of higher education, education in general, that very few people think about outside of our sphere, but it really is in many ways the operating system for universities, for colleges, and even K through 12 has accreditation, as do graduates. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit today about this project, which is not the sexiest project you'll ever hear of, but has potential to really change higher education. So we have entered a new age as a culture, as a society. We are now facing the onset of a new age of knowledge driven by artificial intelligence, by biotechnology, by learning that is truly global. We're seeing the emergence of new labor markets. And we are seeing the emergence of new ways of knowing, new ways of knowledge production. So the 21st century, our century, demands that the industry that is responsible for the discovery of knowledge, the transmission of knowledge, and the preservation of knowledge face these factors. But higher education has been slower to change than it should be. Across other sectors, we've seen radical change. Transportation. Some of you may have taken a Waymo here in Las Vegas. Finance. We've seen financial markets completely open up with the advent of online trading and high-speed trading and financial technology. Retail. Who would have believed 20, 30 years ago that if you wanted a tube of toothpaste, a drone would deliver it to your doorstep? Communications. We have these devices in our pockets where not only can we speak to somebody practically any place in the world at any time, we could actually see them on video and FaceTime them. I mean, we have entered the age of the Jetsons. And of course, artificial intelligence, which now is informing all of these different technologies. Yet higher education, which should be grappling with the new world of knowledge, has been the slowest sector of all to change. And to address this, we need more educational entrepreneurs. We need to imagine a new generation of institutions. Not only institutions that might pop to mind, online education, MOOCs and that, but new ways of delivering things like liberal education and great books education. Universities that are AI native, that are driven by AI as an instructional tool. Apprenticeship academies like our friends at Reach University are building. Faith-based innovators. There's no reason that faith-based institutions can't step up to the plate in this new knowledge economy. Professional institutes, universities that are global, that are no longer completely local, but are thinking across the entire global network. Innovation begins where people are free to build. So what is stopping these new institutions from emerging? As Chad said a few minutes ago, a significant point of blockage is accreditation. Essentially, accreditation determines who can grant degrees, who earns public trust, who receives federal financial aid, and who gets to compete. When we were starting University of Austin, we learned very quickly that the process of accreditation is set to really disadvantage new institutions. You have to go through a process that takes about 7 years before you could be accredited. You have to be operating a university and graduating students during that period of time. One of the first questions people would ask us when we were launching the university was, are you accredited? And what they didn't understand is you cannot open an accredited university. Accreditation is like a bond rating. It's something that assesses the performance of an existing institution. So you had to start a university, you weren't accredited, you couldn't even promise the students who were coming that you would be accredited when they graduated. There was no access to any kind of federal student loans, Pell Grants, or any of that. We couldn't even use .edu as our web address. We couldn't attend college fairs until we were accredited. So we have to compete for 7 years against competitors and prove our model with at least one hand tied behind our back. But the system right now of accreditation is beginning to crack open. A 2025 federal executive order directed the Department of Education to hold accreditors accountable and open the market to new entrants. The department has lifted its prior moratorium on reviewing new accreditors and has begun accepting new accreditation agencies. So there's a window of opportunity here, which has opened up during the current administration, that's not only allowing the formation of new accreditors, but encouraging it. And there are several new accreditation projects underway right now, each sort of approaching this question from a different angle. Now, we don't know for sure what's going to happen after the 2-year period we have now. If there's another Republican administration, the door will probably stay open. If there's not, we're not sure. So the clock is ticking. We really need to push this accreditor that we're building and the ones that others are building through the process as quickly as we can. But for the first time in a generation, that door is open. So the current system of accreditation assumes that educational quality is best protected through centralized oversight. In other words, if accreditation is quality control, how do you get accredited? You have to follow the rules of the accreditors, the checklist, the compliance regime. You have to sort of show the world that you look like what they have determined a university should look like. When you begin the accreditation process, you have to meet standards. Each accreditor, there's 6 major accreditors in the country, has a different set of standards, but they can vary from like 15 to 25 different standards. And they're basically standards that try to determine whether or not the university you're building looks pretty much exactly like every university that exists. So how that could possibly be amenable to innovation and experimentation, we have no idea. It protects the current system and it dampens the ability of others to think creatively. So we believe that there is a better model, that centralized planning generally doesn't produce the best outcomes. That if people are freer to explore ideas, if they have the latitude to experiment, if they have the ability to compete in a fair system, if they have the ability to try things out and learn by mistake, if they are allowed to build, that innovation will thrive and that innovation is fundamentally grounded in freedom. So this is our GAP philosophy. Again, this is the Global Accreditation Project. This is the C3 that's building the new accreditor. The new accreditor will have won't be called GAP, it'll have a name of its own, but this is the project itself that's building the accreditor. We believe that educational excellence grows inside communities committed to excellence. In other words, rather than have an accreditation system that is controlled by a centralized bureaucracy, a Department of Education that sets standards for quasi-independent accreditors to follow, to dole out federal money, we believe that universities should form their own accrediting consortium, that universities have a better sense of what academic excellence stands for, and that by coming together to decide what the standards should be for accreditation, by treating this as a process driven by practitioners as opposed to bureaucrats, that universities can hold one another accountable, that they can create standards that are appropriate for the kind of excellence they're trying to achieve. We believe in it, that homogeneity ultimately really makes it impossible to exceed and excel. So educational entrepreneurship needs better infrastructure. The Global Accreditation Project, as I said, is going to be grounded in standards developed by educators, by practitioners. It's going to be applied through peer judgment, rather than teams of bureaucrats showing up on your campus every few years to determine whether you should be accredited. These will be peer teams from existing institutions that do parallel work. And the purpose will be not to fill out a checklist, but to determine whether or not your institution is healthy, whether it's meeting its mission, and to give advice, to advise each institution how they can improve on delivering their mission. So we ask a different question. The current accreditation regime asks a very simple question. Does this institution resemble existing institutions? Our question is very different. Is this institution fulfilling its educational mission with excellence? And that mission is one that each institution should determine for itself. There's no possible world in which a small Bible college in the panhandle of Texas should be held to the identical standards as MIT. There's no possible way that those standards could possibly encompass the excellence of two radically different institutions. So we want to develop an ecosystem of innovation, one where new institutions can emerge, universities learn from one another, students have more choices, successful ideas spread rapidly, standards continually improve, and innovation never stops. Why does this matter? Because when educational entrepreneurs are free to build, when they can create institutions that are experimental, that are innovative, that are trying to address all the things that we were talking about earlier, AI, an increasingly globalized world, a world in which knowledge is no longer the province simply of human beings, but is shared with machines. Students gain more opportunity, faculty gain more freedom, communities gain stronger institutions, and society gains new ideas. The ultimate goal is human flourishing. Civilization is built upon the expansion and expression of human knowledge and truth. Universities have traditionally been the keepers of this tradition. Universities are the places where knowledge is produced and where truth is pursued. If universities are failing at this mission, civilization itself will begin to buckle. So we think that it's time for the next great renaissance in higher education. Higher education has not been static over its history. There are ancient medieval institutions. You can trace higher education all the way back to a grove outside the city-state of Athens in the 5th century BC, dedicated to the hero Academus. This is Plato's academy. And higher education has evolved over the years. In our own country, we saw the rise of colonial colleges, which were radically different from their counterparts in Europe. We saw the rise of land-grant universities, where the states sort of granted huge tracts of land and resources to build these massive public institutions. We saw the rise of the research university, which at the late 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century adopted the German model of PhDs and research to the American system. We've seen the rise of community colleges, a system that no other country in the world really has, but which provides access to millions and millions of learners. And we've seen the rise of online education. Now in the 21st century, it's time for another turning in higher education. Every generation inherits institutions shaped by the past. And maybe there's no other institution as traditional or past-oriented as universities are. But the freest generations improve the institutions that they inherit. And when necessary, they build new ones. The global accreditation process exists to remove unnecessary boundaries so that educational entrepreneurs can build the colleges and universities the 21st century requires. Because when new ideas become new institutions, innovation accelerates, opportunity expands, communities flourish, and society becomes more free. So maybe accreditation is interesting after all. Thank you all very much. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us for this session. The point of all this, as you can tell, is about building the future. The future is not going to be built by critics, by commentators, by bureaucrats. It's going to be built by builders. And so you've had a chance now to see 3 of those folks who are shaping the future. So if you'd like to learn more, if you'd like to be part of Breakthrough Builders, we encourage you to join us. Go to principledbusiness.org. That's principledbusiness.org. Look for Breakthrough Builders as one of the programs, and come join us. We're going to be convening folks across the country at different forums. We have a really big forum coming up October 28th through the 30th in Austin. You can learn about that event on the Principal Business website. Join us. We're looking for funders, we're looking for founders, and we're looking for friends of just building the future that we want. Thank you so much.